started as a cruel joke that would change everything. Have you ever seen a bully pick the wrong target? A group of bikers laughed as one of them sneered, raised his boot, and kicked a little girl's German shepherd right in the chest. Everyone froze. The little girl screamed. But what none of them knew was that the dog they just attacked wasn't an ordinary pet. He was a retired K-9 police dog, trained to protect and serve. In the next few seconds, everything spiraled out of control. That cruel joke turned into a life-changing lesson. And by the end of that day, the same biker who laughed would be on his knees, begging for forgiveness. What happened next left everyone shocked. But wait, imagine if that dog fought back with perfect control. Would you believe it? Stay with us on StorySphere, because this story will leave you speechless. Before we dive deeper, make sure to hit like, share, and subscribe to StorySphere. And really, I'm curious. Where are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel on StorySphere. It was a bright spring afternoon, the kind of day when the city felt alive. Cafes were buzzing, motorcycles rumbled down the boulevard, and sunlight glinted off glass windows. At the edge of the sidewalk, a little girl named Lily rolled her wheelchair slowly forward, her small hands gripping the rims with effort. Beside her trotted a majestic German shepherd, Rex, his golden brown fur gleaming under the sun. Every so often, he'd glance at her, tail wagging gently, as if making sure she was safe. To passers-by, they looked like an ordinary pair, a cheerful child and her loyal dog. But those who knew them understood their bond ran deeper than most. Lily had lost her father, a decorated police officer, 2 years ago. Since then, Rex, her father's retired K-9 partner, had become her shadow, her protector, and her best friend. He pushed open doors with his nose, fetched dropped toys, even barked softly to get her mother's attention when Lily needed help. To Lily, Rex wasn't just family. He was hope with fur. They stopped in front of a cafe where Lily's mother had gone inside to grab drinks. Lily reached out to pet Rex's head. "You're the best boy," she whispered. Rex's ears perked up, eyes soft, tongue hanging out in a relaxed grin. That's when the low rumble of motorcycle engines broke the calm. 5 large men on black bikes roared down the street, their laughter echoing like thunder. They parked near the cafe, drawing curious stares from everyone nearby. Clad in leather jackets, tattoos covering their arms, they looked rough, the kind of men people instinctively avoided. Rex stood alert instantly. His stance shifted, tail stiff, eyes fixed on the loud strangers. Lily could feel the tension ripple through him. "It's okay, boy," she murmured, stroking his neck. "They're just bikers." But Rex didn't relax. His instincts, sharpened by years of service, told him something wasn't right. The bikers noticed the dog watching them. One of them, a tall, broad man with a gray beard and a cruel grin, Duke, chuckled. "Well, look at that. A guard dog babysitting a little princess." His friends laughed, their voices dripping with mockery. Lily shrank back slightly, her fingers tightening around Rex's collar. The shepherd didn't move, his gaze locked on Duke. The street grew quieter, as if the city itself was holding its breath. No one knew it yet, but this would be the moment everything changed. Duke leaned back against his bike, flashing a grin that didn't reach his eyes. "Relax, sweetheart," he sneered, glancing at Lily. "We're just admiring your big, scary dog." His tone was thick with sarcasm. The men behind him laughed, their voices deep and careless, echoing off the cafe walls. Lily's hands trembled slightly on her wheelchair rims. "Please don't scare him," she said softly, her voice barely audible. "He's a good dog." That only made them laugh harder. "A good dog," Duke mocked, turning to his buddies. "You hear that voice? She says the mutt's a good dog." One of them, a bald man with a tattooed skull, added, "Maybe he fetches her wheels when they fall off." Their laughter grew louder, crueler. Rex's ears flattened. His muscles tensed as he stood between Lily and the men. He didn't bark. Not yet. But a deep growl vibrated from his chest, low and warning. The sound cut through the laughter like a knife. Duke raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Oh, you got some attitude, huh, boy?" He took a few steps closer, boots thudding heavily against the pavement. The rest of the gang watched, smirking, eager to see what would happen next. A couple sitting nearby whispered nervously. The man stood as if to intervene, but his wife tugged his sleeve. "Don't," she whispered. "They look dangerous." Lily swallowed hard. "Please stop," she said again, a small quiver in her voice. "You're scaring him." Duke smirked. "Scaring him? Nah, I'm just having a little fun." He crouched down slightly, staring straight into Rex's eyes. "Come on, tough guy. You going to protect your princess?" Rex's lips curled back, revealing sharp white teeth. His eyes burned with restrained fury. A single bark exploded from him, sharp, thunderous, and commanding. The sound made several bystanders flinch. The bikers froze for a second, and then laughed again, louder this time. "Oh, he thinks he's a real cop dog," Duke said, amused. "What are you going to do, boy? Arrest me?" But what no one realized was that the bark wasn't just a warning. It was a message. Rex had switched from passive to protective mode, and every nerve in his body was now focused on keeping Lily safe. Mark Jensen, the retired officer sitting at a corner table, looked up from his coffee. His trained ears caught the tone in that bark. Measured, tactical, disciplined. His expression hardened. He whispered under his breath, "That's not an ordinary dog." The street seemed to hold its breath. Rex stood firm, muscles coiled, eyes locked on Duke. The girl's heart pounded so loudly she could hear it in her ears. Lily reached down, touching Rex's back, whispering, "It's okay, boy. Please just ignore them." But her voice trembled, and so did her hands. Duke's grin widened. "Oh, come on now. Don't look so scared. I just want to see if your brave little puppy can take a joke." He took one heavy step forward, then another. His boots clacked against the pavement like a drumbeat of arrogance. The other bikers leaned forward, smirking, phones in hand, some already recording. Rex let out another warning growl, lower this time, more dangerous. His fur bristled, his body shifting ever so slightly to block Lily's chair. His training screamed restraint, but his instincts screamed protection. "Hey!" shouted someone from the cafe doorway. "Leave the kid alone." But Duke didn't stop. He turned his head slightly and barked out a laugh. "Relax, old man. It's just a mutt." Then, in one cruel, thoughtless motion, he lifted his heavy boot and kicked Rex square in the chest. The sound was sickening, a thud of leather meeting flesh. Rex stumbled backward, a pained yelp escaping his throat as he hit the ground hard. The entire cafe gasped in unison. Chairs scraped, a cup shattered. Lily screamed, a sharp, heart-wrenching cry that pierced the air. "Stop it!" she shouted, her eyes brimming with tears. She tried to move her wheelchair forward, but her hands shook too much to grip the rims. Rex lay still for half a second, dazed. Then his head lifted. His breathing was heavy, his chest rising and falling. The pain was clear in his eyes, but so was something else. A fierce, unwavering focus. His gaze locked back onto Duke. The laughter that followed from the bikers was short-lived. Something in the shepherd's stare silenced them. Mark Jensen was already on his feet, his training instincts kicking in. He moved swiftly, his voice booming, "That's enough!" But before he could reach them, Rex was already up. Not lunging, not attacking, just standing tall, proud, unbroken. A woman near the cafe whispered, trembling, "Oh my God!" He kicked the dog. Her husband had his phone out now, recording the entire scene. Duke smirked again, brushing his boot as if proud of what he'd done. "See? All bark, no bite," he said. But even as the words left his mouth, unease flickered across his face. Rex didn't cower. He didn't bark again. He simply stood, posture rigid, eyes burning with controlled fury. The street grew quiet again, too quiet. And then, slowly, the growl returned. Deep, relentless, the kind that didn't come from fear, but from a guardian ready to act. Duke's grin faded. He stepped back, uncertain for the first time. Somewhere in the crowd, a phone camera zoomed in, capturing the exact moment when the predator realized he'd picked the wrong target. What happened next would make the entire city watch in disbelief. For a long, suspended second, no one moved. The laughter that had filled the street a moment ago evaporated into stunned silence. Rex stood tall again, chest rising and falling, his deep growl rumbling like thunder beneath the surface. His sharp amber eyes never left Duke. The once boastful biker froze mid-step, realizing too late that what he had mistaken for an ordinary pet was something far more formidable. Lily's cheeks were streaked with tears. "Rex?" she whispered shakily, afraid he was hurt, but when he turned slightly toward her, she saw his eyes. Focused, alive, protective. He wasn't acting out of anger. He was assessing the threat, calculating, waiting for a command that might never come. Mark Jensen moved quickly from his table, his police instincts screaming that the situation could explode any second. "Everybody stay calm," he shouted, stepping between the crowd and the confrontation. His gaze flicked to Rex and the stance, the breathing pattern, the controlled aggression. He knew it instantly. This was K9 training at work. The dog wasn't reacting on emotion. He was following discipline, pure, precise control. The other bikers shifted uncomfortably. "Come on, Duke. Let's go," one muttered, the edge of fear cracking through his voice. But Duke wasn't ready to back down. His pride burned too hot, too loud. "What? Scared of a mutt?" he barked, forcing a laugh that sounded hollow. Rex's ears twitched. One paw inched forward just slightly, his body poised in perfect balance. His growl deepened, not loud, but deliberate, echoing through the still air like a warning siren. The crowd held their breath. Several people now had their phones raised, recording every second. The hum of engines from parked bikes mixed with the distant chatter of nervous voices. Mark held out his hand slowly toward Rex, testing his theory. "Sit," he commanded softly, just loud enough for the shepherd to hear. To everyone's shock, Rex obeyed instantly, lowering himself into a perfect seated position. Muscles still taut, eyes still locked on Duke. Murmurs rippled through the onlookers. "He's trained," someone whispered. "That's a police dog." Duke's smirk faltered. His confidence cracked like glass. The laughter had stopped now. Even his own men seemed uncertain, stepping back slightly. Mark's voice was calm but firm. "You need to walk away right now. That dog isn't just protecting her. He's following protocol. Push him again, and you'll regret it." For the first time, Duke hesitated. He'd started this as a joke, but the joke was quickly turning on him. Mark stepped forward, his steady boots echoing across the concrete. The tension in the air was thick enough to touch. "That's enough," he said firmly, his voice carrying the calm authority of someone who'd seen far worse than street bullies. He positioned himself between Duke and the little girl, one hand slightly raised toward Rex. The German shepherd's eyes flicked to Mark. Recognition, respect, then back to Duke, waiting for direction. Duke tilted his head, trying to mask his unease with a grin. "And who the hell are you supposed to be, Grandpa?" Mark didn't flinch. "Someone who knows exactly what that dog can do." His tone was calm, but it cut like steel. The crowd's attention shifted fully now. Whispers rippled. Someone muttered that the man looked familiar. Maybe a cop. Duke laughed, trying to regain control. "You think this mutt's special?" he jeered. "It's just a dog." Mark's jaw tightened. "Just a dog." He crouched slightly, locking eyes with Rex. "Rex, sit." Instantly, the shepherd obeyed in perfect posture, head high, ears alert. No hesitation. The obedience was military precise. The crowd gasped. "Now stay," Mark commanded quietly. Rex froze, unmoving like a statue carved from loyalty. Mark stood and faced Duke again. "Does that look like just a dog to you?" For the first time, Duke's smirk faltered. He glanced at his friends, searching for support, but even they were silent. The laughter had died. All that remained was the sound of Rex's steady breathing and the faint buzz of the cafe sign overhead. Mark took a step closer, voice low but firm. That German Shepherd has more control, courage, and heart than any of you standing here." Rex stayed perfectly still, his eyes sharp, his body tense yet composed, trained restraint on display. The passers-by started murmuring words like police dog and K9. Someone whispered, "He's responding to commands. He's definitely trained." Duke scowled, masking his discomfort. "Whatever, man. We were just playing around." "Playing?" Mark's eyes hardened. "You kicked a service-trained dog guarding a child. If he wasn't under command, you'd be on the ground right now." Rex's ears twitched at Mark's voice, waiting, always waiting for the signal. Mark gave a small nod to the crowd, signaling calm. "Let's keep it that way," he said evenly. Then, turning back to Duke, he added, "Walk away before your mistake becomes permanent." The street fell silent again, and for the first time Duke wasn't sure if he was the predator or the prey. The crowd watched in stunned silence as Duke finally stepped back, muttering something under his breath. But Mark's eyes remained on Rex, studying every movement, every breath. There was no doubt in his mind now, the discipline, the focus, the way the shepherd controlled his instincts. This wasn't a house pet reacting to chaos. This was a trained K9. And Mark could tell he'd seen duty before. Lily's mother hurried out of the cafe, panic etched on her face. "Lily, what happened?" she cried, rushing to her daughter's side. Rex immediately shifted his stance, blocking the space between them and the bikers, until Mark gave a quiet, reassuring nod. Only then did Rex relax, sitting back on his haunches, chest still rising fast from tension. Mark knelt beside the girl. "He's okay," he said gently. "He took a hit, but he's tougher than he looks." Lily looked at Rex, tears still glistening in her eyes. "He's not just any dog," she said softly. "He used to work with my dad." The murmurs in the crowd grew louder. People exchanged surprised looks. "Your dad?" someone whispered. Lily nodded, her small voice trembling. "My dad was a police officer. Rex was his partner. They used to work together every day. He said Rex was the bravest dog in the whole world." Her mother placed a hand on Lily's shoulder, her own eyes misting over. "My husband was Officer Daniel Carter," she said quietly. "He served for 12 years in the K9 division. When he was killed during a robbery 2 years ago, Rex wouldn't leave his side. They had to carry him away." The crowd fell completely silent. Even Duke looked down, his arrogance replaced by something uncertain. Guilt, maybe. Mark's throat tightened. He remembered the name. Daniel Carter, he'd heard it before. "Your father was one of the best," he said softly, nodding. "I worked in the same division years ago." "Rex." He glanced at the dog with admiration. Rex was a legend. Saved 3 officers in a warehouse raid. Took a bullet once and still went back to drag his handler to safety. Lily's eyes widened with pride. "Dad said he was a hero." Mark smiled faintly. "He still is." The people around them nodded, whispering words like unbelievable and hero dog. Rex, sensing the calm, finally lowered himself beside Lily's chair, resting his head gently on her knee. The girl stroked his fur, whispering, "It's okay now, boy." Mark looked back at Duke, his tone level but cutting. "You kicked a decorated police dog, a retired hero. He's been trained to face criminals, explosions, and gunfire. And you thought he'd be scared of you?" Duke swallowed hard. The weight of what he'd done began to sink in. For the first time, the laughter, the noise, the mockery, all of it vanished. What remained was respect. Respect for a bond forged in service, sealed in loyalty, and tested by pain. And the man who had mocked that bond was now standing face to face with its power. For a brief moment, it felt as if everything had settled. The crowd had softened. Lily was safe, and Rex lay calmly beside her. But peace never lasts when pride is wounded. Duke's friends shifted uneasily, whispering behind him, their earlier laughter replaced by awkward silence. One muttered, "Let's go, man. This is over." But Duke's jaw tightened, his ego bruised and humiliated in front of a crowd. He refused to let go. He glanced around, seeing dozens of phones pointed at him. Every camera lens felt like a dagger. The thought of being known as the biker who got humbled by a dog twisted his pride into rage. "Nah," he growled, forcing a grin. "We're not done here." Mark instantly recognized the look. The reckless glare of a man who'd already lost but couldn't accept it. "Don't do this," he warned. "Walk away while you still can." But Duke smirked. "I just want to test your little hero here. See if he still remembers how to bite." The crowd murmured in disbelief. Lily's mother stepped forward, her voice trembling with anger. "You've done enough. Leave us alone." Duke ignored her. He took a slow step forward, his boots scraping the pavement, eyes locked on Rex. The shepherd's ears twitched, his muscles tensed once more. Mark instinctively raised a hand. "Stay," he commanded. Rex froze, obedient, but his gaze tracked every movement Duke made. His chest rumbled with a low growl that vibrated through the air. "See," Duke taunted. "He's all barked out now. The old man's got him on a leash." He turned toward the crowd with a smirk. "What's he going to do? Who sent me to death?" That's when he made the mistake. Duke lunged forward, thrusting his hand toward Lily's wheelchair in a fake-out motion, trying to scare her. Lily flinched and Rex moved. It was like lightning. 1 second, the dog was still. The next, he surged forward with explosive precision. He didn't bite, didn't attack wildly. Instead, he executed a perfect K9 takedown maneuver, clamping his teeth onto Duke's sleeve and driving him to the ground in a controlled hold. The man hit the pavement hard, his arm twisted but uninjured. Gasps erupted around them. Someone shouted, "He's trained. Look, he's not even hurting him." Rex held Duke down firmly, growling just enough to make his message clear. "You crossed the line." Mark stepped in immediately, giving the release command. "Rex, out." Instantly, Rex let go and backed away, returning to Lily's side like nothing had happened. The control was flawless, near professional. Duke lay on the ground, stunned. His pride shattered more than his body. His own men didn't move to help him. One finally muttered, "Man, you messed with the wrong dog." Mark crouched beside him, voice calm but cutting. "That's what restraint looks like. If he wanted to hurt you, he would have." The street erupted in applause. Phones caught every second. The moment the bully learned what true discipline looked like, the crowd was electric. Cheers and gasps echoed through the street as Duke struggled to his feet, his ego bruised far more than his body. He glared at Rex, chest heaving, rage burning behind his eyes. "You think this is funny?" he barked, spinning toward the bystanders. "You're all filming this like it's some kind of show." But that's exactly what it had become. Dozens of phones now recording, lenses fixed on the biker who had tried to bully a child and ended up on the ground. Mark stood protectively beside Lily and her mother, his calm presence a wall between them and, "Duke, it's over," he said evenly. "Walk away." Duke's lips curled. "Over? You think I'm going to let some mutt embarrass me in front of the whole city?" His voice cracked with fury. "He's lucky I don't." He never finished the sentence. Rex had stepped forward again. Not aggressively, but standing firm, eyes locked, body perfectly poised. It wasn't an attack stance. It was a warning, the kind of silent message only a trained protector could deliver. Don't take another step. Duke hesitated, feeling the weight of every gaze around him. Then, in a final burst of defiance, he lunged, a reckless move meant to intimidate, not realizing how dangerously close he was to crossing the line again. Rex reacted instantly. In one swift, fluid motion, he intercepted the movement, pivoted, and leapt forward, knocking Duke's arm aside. His teeth clamped not on flesh, but on the man's leather jacket sleeve, pinning him face first to the ground with precision that could only come from years of canine service. Gasps erupted again, followed by applause. "He didn't even bite him," someone shouted. "He's holding him down like a cop dog," another said, filming closer. Duke thrashed beneath Rex, cursing, but he couldn't move an inch. The shepherd's strength was unyielding, his focus absolute. Lily clutched the arms of her wheelchair, eyes wide, torn between fear and awe. "Rex," she whispered. "Stop, boy." Mark immediately stepped forward, calm as ever. "Rex, release." The shepherd obeyed instantly, stepping back and returning to Lily's side. The transition was flawless, from tactical control to quiet obedience. The crowd erupted in cheers now, their fear replaced by admiration. From the distance came the unmistakable sound of sirens, growing louder, closer. Someone had already called 911. Duke's gang exchanged nervous glances. One whispered, "Man, we got to get out of here." But it was too late. Flashing blue and red lights turned the corner. Mark exhaled. "Good timing," he muttered, then knelt beside Rex. "You did perfect, partner." He patted the shepherd's back. The dog's chest rose steadily, calm now that the threat was neutralized. Duke sat up slowly, humiliated, the weight of 100 eyes and cameras crushing his pride. What began as a cruel joke had turned into a viral act of justice, and the internet was already recording every second of it. The irony was clear to everyone watching. The biker had tried to make a fool out of a dog, and became the fool himself. The wail of sirens grew louder until 2 patrol cars screeched to a stop beside the cafe. The flashing red and blue lights painted the street in color, reflecting off chrome motorcycles and glass windows. The crowd quickly parted as 2 uniformed officers stepped out, hands on their belts, eyes scanning the scene. "What's going on here?" one of them demanded, his voice cutting through the tense silence. Duke tried to stand tall, brushing dust off his jacket. "Just a misunderstanding," he said quickly. "That mutt attacked me out of nowhere." His tone was defensive, his eyes darting nervously toward the crowd that was still filming. But the crowd erupted before he could spin his story. "He's lying," someone shouted. "We saw everything." "Yeah," another voice added, waving a phone. "He kicked that dog first hard." The officer turned toward Mark, noticing his calm stance and authoritative bearing. "Sir, can you explain?" Mark nodded respectfully. "Former K-9 Division," he said, flashing his old badge ID from his wallet. "The dog's name is Rex, a retired service dog. That man attacked him and endangered a child under his protection." The officers exchanged quick looks. "A canine?" one repeated. He crouched slightly, looking at Rex, who sat perfectly beside Lily's wheelchair, tail still but eyes alert. "You're telling me this dog's trained?" Mark nodded. "Top of his class. Saved lives during duty. If it weren't for his discipline, that man would be in the hospital instead of standing here." The female officer stepped closer to Duke. "Is that true? You kicked a service animal?" Duke hesitated, jaw tight. "I didn't know. I thought it was just some kid's dog." "That doesn't excuse assault," she interrupted sharply. "Especially not on a K-9. One of the bystanders came forward, holding up his phone. "I got the whole thing on video," he said, "from the first kick to when the dog held him down." The officers reviewed the footage, their faces hardening. When the video showed Duke's boot connecting with Rex's chest, the decision was instant. "Turn around," the male officer ordered. "What? No," Duke protested, but the officer grabbed his arm, twisting it behind his back. The cuffs clicked shut. "You're under arrest for animal cruelty, assault, and public endangerment," the officer said firmly. The crowd cheered. Lily hugged Rex tightly, whispering, "You did so good, boy." Mark watched quietly, relief softening his features. Justice had finally stepped in, and this time the good guys were four-legged. The flashing police lights slowly faded as Duke was led away in handcuffs. The crowd began to disperse, their excited chatter echoing in the distance. But amidst the noise, one sound lingered, the soft, uneven breathing of a frightened little girl. Lily's hands trembled as she clutched the sides of her wheelchair, her eyes wide, glistening with unshed tears. Rex sat beside her, close enough for her trembling fingers to reach his fur. The shepherd didn't bark or move. He simply watched her, chest rising in steady rhythm, eyes calm but full of concern. His instincts told him the threat was gone. Yet his heart knew the one person he needed to protect still wasn't okay. Mark knelt down in front of Lily, lowering himself to her level. "Hey," he said gently, voice warm but steady. "It's over now. You're safe." Lily looked up, her voice barely a whisper. "He kicked him. He kicked Rex. What if he got hurt?" Mark smiled softly and reached out to pat the shepherd's head. "Rex is tougher than he looks, sweetheart. He's taken worse and still come out stronger. Look at him. See how he's sitting? Calm, alert. That means he's okay." Rex turned his head at the sound of his name and gave Lily's hand a soft nudge with his nose. Then, almost as if he understood her fear, he licked her fingers gently, his eyes meeting hers with quiet reassurance. That simple gesture broke her. Tears slipped down her cheeks, and she leaned forward, wrapping her arms around his neck. "You're my hero," she whispered, her voice trembling. Rex didn't move. He just stayed there, letting her cry into his fur, his tail giving a slow, gentle wag. Lily's mother knelt beside her, stroking her daughter's hair. "It's all right, honey. You and Rex are both safe now." Mark exhaled, glancing toward the police cars as they drove away. The street was calm again, sunlight returning to its quiet afternoon warmth. "You know," he said softly, "I've worked with a lot of canines in my time, but I've never seen one that loyal. He didn't attack to hurt, he acted to protect." Lily wiped her tears, managing a shaky smile. "That's what Daddy used to say about him." Mark nodded with quiet pride. "Your dad was right." Rex looked up, ears twitching, his expression serene. The danger had passed, but his duty wasn't over. Because for him, protecting Lily wasn't just training. It was love. As the police cars pulled away, the street slowly returned to its usual rhythm. Though nothing felt ordinary anymore, the cafe door swung open again, and people who had watched everything unfold stepped back out, phones still clutched in their hands. They weren't whispering in shock anymore. They were speaking in awe. "Did you see that dog?" one man said, shaking his head in disbelief. "He didn't even attack. He controlled that biker like a pro." A woman nearby nodded. "That wasn't just a pet. That was a guardian." Rex sat quietly beside Lily's wheelchair, the picture of calm obedience. His fur caught the afternoon sunlight, glinting like gold, while his steady eyes followed every movement of the crowd. He looked nothing like a beast that had just taken down a grown man. He looked like a hero who had simply done his duty. Several bystanders approached carefully, their expressions soft. "Is he okay?" one of them asked Lily. Lily wiped her face and nodded proudly. "He's fine. He's brave. He saved me." The woman smiled, touched. "Sweetheart, I think he saved all of us today. People like that biker need to see what real strength looks like." Mark stood beside them, quietly observing as a few strangers began thanking him, too. Not just for stepping in, but for recognizing Rex's training before things got worse. "Most dogs react out of fear," one man said. "But he didn't. He thought before he moved." Mark nodded. "That's what separates a K9 from the rest. They don't act on rage. They act on purpose." Within minutes, social media was already lighting up. Dozens of phones had captured the entire scene. From the first bark to the final takedown, videos were being shared, rewatched, and commented on in real time. People on the street could already hear notifications chiming as clips spread across the internet. "Look," someone said, holding up a phone. "It's already got 10,000 views." Lily giggled softly through her lingering tears. Her mother smiled, squeezing her shoulder. And Rex, calm, unbothered, unaware of his newfound fame, simply rested his head on Lily's lap, eyes half closed, as if the world's applause meant nothing to him. To him, the mission was complete. To everyone else, a legend had just been born. By nightfall, the video was everywhere. What had started as a random recording from a cafe sidewalk had become one of the most shared clips of the year. The headlines spread like wildfire. "Biker kicks dog. Instantly regrets it when he learns the truth." Millions clicked. Millions watched. Millions felt their hearts stop at the moment Duke's boot struck Rex. And then cheer as the German Shepherd took control with stunning discipline. The internet exploded with comments. "That dog deserves a medal. The most controlled takedown I've ever seen. Proof that heroes wear fur." News outlets picked it up within hours. Morning shows replayed the footage in slow motion, narrating every frame like a scene from a movie. The segment trended across platforms. Hero Dog Rex. Even police departments shared it, praising Rex's restraint and training. At the Carter household, Lily and her mother sat on the couch, their faces illuminated by the glow of the television. Rex lay curled up at Lily's feet, his head resting on her slippers. The anchor's voice echoed through the room. Viewers across the country are moved by the loyalty of a retired K-9 named Rex, who defended his young owner after being attacked by a biker. Experts confirm the dog's actions show not aggression, but precision, a perfect example of training and courage. Lily grinned, clutching her mother's hand. "Mom, look, that's him. That's Rex." Her mother smiled through proud tears. "He's becoming a star, honey." Mark's phone buzzed nonstop that evening. Old colleagues from the K-9 unit called, laughing and shaking their heads in admiration. "That dog still got it?" one said. "You sure he's retired?" Mark chuckled. "Retired, maybe, but heroes never stop serving." Within a day, donations began flooding into an online campaign started by strangers. For Rex, the hero who protects without fear. Thousands of messages poured in, thanking the Carters for giving Rex a home and sharing how his courage had inspired them. Lily read some of the messages aloud. This one says, "My son wants to be a K-9 officer now because of Rex." She looked down at the shepherd. "Hear that, boy? You're changing lives." Rex simply wagged his tail and gave her hand a gentle lick, as if to say he didn't need fame or applause. His reward was already in front of him. And somewhere across town, behind the cold walls of a holding cell, Duke watched the same video on the evening news, and for the first time didn't feel anger. He felt shame. The sound of the cell door clanging shut echoed through the dimly lit police station. Duke sat on the edge of the metal bench, his hands clasped tightly together, his eyes fixed on the floor. The once proud, loud biker was silent now. Stripped of arrogance, surrounded only by the hum of flickering lights and the quiet murmur of other inmates down the corridor. Across the small holding room, an old television bolted to the wall played the news. He wasn't paying attention at first, not until he heard his own name. Earlier today, a viral video surfaced of a biker assaulting a retired police dog. Unaware the animal was a decorated K-9 hero, Duke looked up, eyes narrowing. The screen showed the exact moment his boot hit Rex. The sound of the yelp echoed again, amplified, replayed from every angle. Then came the part where Rex pinned him down, perfectly controlled, never drawing blood, never acting out of rage. The commentator's words followed. Experts say the dog demonstrated exceptional restraint, a true example of what training and loyalty can achieve. Duke's chest tightened. For the first time, he didn't see a dog that embarrassed him. He saw courage, calm, measured, unflinching courage. His own reflection on the TV screen, the sneer, the cruelty in his eyes, made him sick to his stomach. He turned away, pressing his palms against his forehead. "What the hell was I thinking?" he muttered. The words came out more like a confession than a question. A younger officer walking past stopped at the bars. "That dog saved more lives than you can count," he said quietly. "You're lucky he knew the difference between threat and stupidity." Then he walked away, leaving Duke alone with the truth. Hours passed, but sleep never came. His mind replayed Lily's terrified face, the sound of her pleading voice, and the way the German shepherd stood between her and danger, even after being hurt. He thought about loyalty, about what it meant to protect someone weaker, and how he'd mocked that. By morning, his pride was gone, replaced by guilt, heavy and unfamiliar. He looked at the news again, now showing a photo of Rex beside Lily, both smiling. Underneath it read, "Hero K-9 saves child, inspires millions." Duke swallowed hard. For the first time in years, he felt something real. Regret, he whispered under his breath. I need to make this right. 2 weeks passed. The story of Rex and Lily had continued to dominate headlines, but by now the chaos had settled into something gentler. Admiration, inspiration, and healing. The Carters had moved on quietly, avoiding the media frenzy, focusing instead on peace and normal life. Lily spent most of her afternoons at the park with Rex, where the German Shepherd finally enjoyed the life of a hero who no longer had to prove anything. But one afternoon, a familiar rumble of a motorcycle echoed down the quiet lane. It wasn't loud or boastful this time, just hesitant, almost apologetic. Mark, who often met Lily and her mother for coffee, turned at the sound and immediately stiffened. A single biker pulled up near the park bench, engine humming low. When the helmet came off, everyone froze. It was Duke. The crowd nearby recognized him instantly, the man from the video, the one who had kicked the dog. Whispers began to spread like wind through the trees. Lily looked at Rex instinctively. The shepherd stood alert but calm, tail still, eyes steady. Mark took a small step forward, placing a protective hand near Lily's wheelchair, ready to intervene if needed. But Duke raised both hands slowly. I'm not here to cause trouble, he said quietly. His voice carried none of its old arrogance, only weariness. I needed to say something. He walked closer, stopping several feet away. I was wrong, he said simply. I saw the video in that cell 100 times. Every time I hated myself more. I didn't see what everyone else saw. A hero protecting someone who couldn't protect herself. He swallowed hard, voice cracking. I hurt an innocent dog, and I scared a little girl. I can't undo that, but I needed to tell you. I'm sorry. For a long moment no one spoke. Then Lily looked up at him with those same soft, forgiving eyes that mirrored her father's spirit. Rex already forgave you, she said gently, glancing at her dog. He only fights bad people. You're not one anymore. Duke's throat tightened. He dropped to one knee, lowering his head. Thank you, he whispered. Rex stepped closer, sniffed the man's hand, and to everyone's surprise, gave it a gentle nudge. Not a growl, not a bark, just quiet acceptance. Mark smiled faintly. Looks like you got your second chance. For the first time in years, Duke felt peace, not from pride but from forgiveness. The sun was beginning to set, casting long golden streaks across the park. Lily laughed softly as Rex chased the falling leaves, his fur glowing in the warm light. The air carried a calm that hadn't been there for weeks, the calm that follows healing. Mark stood nearby, sipping his coffee, quietly watching as the world seemed to find its balance again. Duke sat on a nearby bench, helmet resting beside him. He watched Lily and Rex play, a faint, genuine smile touching his face, something unfamiliar but comforting. He had spent years living with noise, rebellion, and reckless pride. But now he understood what true strength looked like. Not dominance, not intimidation, but loyalty, love, and restraint. He turned to Mark, who joined him on the bench. You ever think a dog could change your life? Duke asked quietly. Mark smiled, eyes on Rex. All the time, he said. They teach us more about being human than most people ever could. Duke nodded slowly. I used to think fear made people respect you. But that dog, he didn't act out of fear. He acted out of duty, out of love. He paused, his voice barely above a whisper. I think I finally get it. Lily rolled her wheelchair toward them, Rex trotting proudly beside her. Rex says, "Thank you for coming back," she said cheerfully. He always knows when someone means well. Duke chuckled softly, scratching behind Rex's ear. He's smarter than most people I've met. Rex wagged his tail and leaned into the touch, a small but powerful gesture of forgiveness. For Duke, it was the moment he truly felt free. Mark placed a hand on his shoulder. It's never too late to make things right, he said. And sometimes redemption starts with a single act of courage, even if it's just saying sorry. Duke nodded, his gaze fixed on the horizon. Yeah, he murmured. And sometimes heroes don't wear badges or ride bikes. Sometimes they walk on four legs. As the sun dipped lower, the camera would pull back. A wide shot of Lily, Rex, Mark, and Duke, framed by the golden light of evening. The wind carried soft laughter and the rhythmic wag of a tail, the sound of forgiveness and peace. Sometimes cruelty exposes true character, but kindness restores it. Never underestimate a heart that protects without fear and forgives without hesitation. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to StorySphere for more true emotional stories. And remember, real heroes come in all forms, some with badges and some with paws.